She was 19. He was 67. She needed money for her dying mother. He needed something only a young, desperate girl could give him. The deal was simple: marry him, endure 1 year, inherit everything. But nobody told her about the red room in the basement. Nobody warned her about what happened to the other girls before her. And nobody expected what she would do on their wedding night that changed everything. Why did she run away, covered in blood? What secret was buried in that mansion? Sit back and find out as we dive into this shocking and disturbing story. Goodness was a young woman living in a small village in Nigeria. She was known for her beautiful face, her gentle spirit, and her kind heart. But there was something more that weighed heavily on her shoulders: the crushing burden of poverty. Every day, Goodness would walk through the village, seeing her former classmates dressed in fine clothes, carrying expensive bags, and living lives she could only dream of. She worked as a house help for wealthy families, cleaning, cooking, and caring for their children. The money she earned barely fed her family. Her mother was sick. Her younger siblings needed school fees. The weight of responsibility felt like a mountain on her back. One evening, while serving drinks at a wedding reception, Goodness overheard a conversation between two women whispering at a corner table. They were gossiping about a wealthy businessman named Chief Adebayo. He was much older than Goodness, old enough to be her father, perhaps even her grandfather. But what caught Goodness's attention was the rumor that Chief Adebayo was searching for a wife. And he wasn't looking for just any woman. He wanted someone young, beautiful, and obedient. The news spread like wildfire, and Goodness's mind began to race. Chief Adebayo, though old, was known for his wealth. He owned several businesses, including the largest hotel chain in the state, and was said to have piles of money stashed away. He had lost his first wife years ago, leaving him alone with his vast fortune. He had no children and no one to inherit his empire. If she married him, Goodness thought, all her family's suffering would end. Her mother could get proper treatment. Her siblings could go to good schools. She could finally breathe. Her friend Zainab laughed when Goodness mentioned the idea. "You? Marry that old man just for his money?" Zainab teased. "Goodness, have you lost your mind completely?" Goodness looked down at her worn shoes, her voice quiet but determined. "Zainab, this could be my family's only chance. My mother is getting worse every day. What else can I do?" Zainab's smile faded. She touched Goodness's hand gently. "But what about love? What about happiness?" Goodness forced a smile, though her heart was heavy. "Love doesn't pay hospital bills. Happiness doesn't put food on the table. I have to do what I must." And so Goodness made up her mind. The very next day, she borrowed a decent dress from Zainab and went to Chief Adebayo's mansion. It was enormous, with high gates, security guards, and gardens that stretched as far as the eye could see. Goodness's heart raced as she approached the gate. The security guard looked at her suspiciously, his eyes scanning her worn shoes and borrowed dress. "What do you want?" he asked rudely. I came to see Chief Adebayo," Goodness said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but please. It's important." The guard laughed and turned away. "Go home, girl. Chief doesn't see people like you." But just then a voice called out from the compound. It was Chief Adebayo himself, standing by his car, dressed in expensive traditional attire. "Let her in," he said, his voice deep and commanding. Goodness walked through the gate, her legs trembling. Chief Adebayo was tall, grey-haired, and wore an expensive agbada with gold embroidery. His eyes were sharp, calculating. He looked at her the way someone looks at merchandise in a shop, assessing value and potential. "What brings a young girl like you to my house?" he asked, not unkindly but with curiosity. Goodness took a deep breath and spoke boldly, though her heart was pounding. "Sir, I heard you're looking for a wife. I know I'm young and I don't come from wealth, but I'm hard-working, respectful, and I would be honored to be considered." Chief Adebayo raised an eyebrow, then smiled slowly. It wasn't a warm smile, but one of amusement. "You're honest. I like that. But tell me, why would a beautiful young woman like you want to marry an old man like me?" "Let me guess. Money?" Goodness's cheeks burned with shame, but she nodded, her voice trembling. "Yes, sir. My mother is sick. My family is struggling. I need help." Chief Adebayo studied her face for a long moment, his eyes never leaving hers. Then he nodded slowly. "At least, you're not pretending. Most women lie and say they love me. They come with elaborate stories about my character and wisdom. But you're different. You're honest about your desperation. I'll consider your proposal. But if you want to be my wife, you must prove yourself worthy. Can you do that?" Goodness nodded quickly, hope flooding her chest. "Yes, sir. I'll do anything." Chief Adebayo's smile widened, but there was something cold in it, something that made Goodness's stomach tighten. "Good. We'll see if you mean that. Come back tomorrow morning. Early. I'll have your first task ready." Goodness left the mansion that evening with mixed feelings swirling inside her. Relief that he had considered her, fear about what proving herself would mean, but most of all, hope. Hope that her family's suffering would finally end. As she walked home in the fading light, she imagined her mother smiling again, healthy and strong. Her siblings laughing without worry, their bellies full. A life without the constant fear of hunger and debt pressing down on them. But little did Goodness know, her decision to marry for money would soon lead her down a path filled with tests that would challenge everything she believed about herself and what she was worth. Goodness could hardly sleep that night. Thoughts of her family's future filled her mind. She imagined her mother getting the medical treatment she desperately needed, her siblings wearing new school uniforms, their faces bright with hope. A home where they wouldn't have to worry about the next meal or how to pay the rent. But beneath those dreams lay a growing unease, a whisper of doubt that she tried to silence. What kind of tests would Chief Adebayo give her? And what would be the cost of failing? The next morning, as the sun rose over the village, Goodness dressed in her best clothes and made her way back to the mansion. Her hands were trembling as she knocked on the gate. This time, the security guard opened it immediately, as if he'd been expecting her. A car was waiting inside. The driver, a stern-looking man, gestured for her to enter. "Chief Adebayo requests your presence. Get in." Goodness's heart pounded as she got into the car. Her worn dress looked even more shabby against the leather seats. When they arrived at the main house, she was greeted by an elderly woman with kind eyes but a stern face. This was Mama Patience, Chief Adebayo's housekeeper who had worked for him for over 20 years. "Chief is waiting for you in the main house," Mama Patience said, her voice firm but not unkind. She led Goodness through corridors lined with expensive artwork and furniture that gleamed under crystal chandeliers. "He wants to see if you're serious about this arrangement." Goodness was led to a grand dining room where Chief Adebayo sat at the head of a long table that could easily seat 30 people. The room smelled of polished wood and expensive perfume. He gestured to the chair beside him with a wave of his hand. "Sit," he said simply. Goodness sat, her hands folded in her lap, trying to stop them from shaking. "Goodness," Chief Adebayo began, his voice measured and calm. "You said you would do anything to prove yourself. Today I want to see if you meant that. I'm hosting a dinner party tonight for some very important business associates. 20 people, politicians, businessmen, their wives. I want you to oversee the preparations." Goodness's eyes widened in shock. "Sir, I've never organized something so big before." "Then you'll learn," he said calmly, his tone leaving no room for argument. "Mama Patience will show you what needs to be done. But understand this, these men judge everything. The food, the service, the atmosphere, the smallest detail. If you embarrass me tonight, there will be no second chance. You'll go back to your village and we'll never speak again." Goodness swallowed hard, fear rising in her throat. "I understand, sir. I won't let you down." Chief Adebayo studied her face for a moment, then nodded. "We'll see." The rest of the day was absolute chaos. Mama Patience barked orders as Goodness and the other staff rushed to prepare everything. Clean this, arrange that, polish the silverware until it gleamed. Fold the napkins into perfect shapes. Check every single wine glass for spots or fingerprints. Prepare dishes that Goodness had never even heard of before. Goodness's hands were shaking as she worked. She had cooked for families before, helping in their kitchens for small wages. But never anything this elaborate. Never anything this important. The pressure felt like a physical weight pressing down on her chest, making it hard to breathe. By evening, as the sun began to set, the guests began to arrive. Wealthy men in expensive suits that probably cost more than Goodness's family earned in a year. Their wives dripping with gold jewelry, diamonds catching the light. They looked at Goodness with curiosity, their eyes scanning her with barely concealed judgment. They whispered to each other behind perfectly manicured hands. "Who is that girl? Is she the new one? She looks so young. Too young. Where did he find her?" Goodness kept her head down and focused on her tasks, trying to ignore the stares and whispers, serving drinks with steady hands, making sure plates were filled with the right portions, ensuring every guest had exactly what they needed before they even had to ask. But then disaster struck without warning. One of the guests, a large man with a loud voice and an even louder laugh, called for more wine. Goodness rushed over with the bottle, moving quickly to serve him. Her hands were trembling from exhaustion and nerves. As she poured, some of the expensive red wine spilled onto the pristine white tablecloth. The room went silent. All conversation stopped. The man stared at the red stain spreading across the fabric like blood. Chief Adebayo's face darkened, his jaw tightening. Goodness felt her heart drop into her stomach. "I'm so sorry, sir," Goodness whispered, her voice breaking with shame and fear. "I'm so sorry. Please forgive me." The guest waved his hand dismissively, clearly uncomfortable with her obvious distress. "It's fine. Accidents happen. Don't worry about it." But Chief Adebayo stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. His eyes were cold as ice. "Mama Patience, bring a new tablecloth immediately. Goodness, come with me. Now." Goodness followed him out of the dining room on shaking legs, her heart racing so fast she thought it might burst. They walked to his study in silence. He closed the door behind them with a soft click that sounded final, like a prison cell closing. "Do you understand what you just did?" he asked, his voice quiet but sharp as a knife. "You made me look careless in front of my associates. Like I can't even manage my own household properly, like I choose incompetent people." Tears filled Goodness's eyes, spilling down her cheeks. "I'm so sorry, Chief. Please give me another chance. I was nervous. It won't happen again. I promise." Chief Adebayo stared at her for a long moment, letting the silence stretch uncomfortably. Then he sighed, a sound of disappointment. "You're lucky that man was forgiving. Another guest might have made a scene. But this is your first and last warning, Goodness. If you want to be part of my world, you cannot make mistakes. There is no room for weakness here, no room for nervous hands or second chances. Do you understand?" Goodness nodded, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. "I understand, sir. It won't happen again." "Good. Now go back and finish your duties." "And Goodness?" He leaned closer, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "Smile. My guests should never see you upset. Control your emotions, always. In this world, showing weakness is showing failure." Goodness returned to the dining room, forcing a smile onto her face, even as her heart was breaking inside her chest. She moved through the rest of the evening like a ghost, serving with mechanical precision, smiling when appropriate, pretending everything was perfectly fine. When the last guest finally left several hours later, Goodness collapsed into a chair in the kitchen, her body exhausted and her spirit crushed. Mama Patience brought her a glass of water and sat down beside her with a heavy sigh. "You did well, child," the older woman said softly, genuine warmth in her voice. "Better than I expected, truth be told." "I spilled wine on the table," Goodness said, her voice hollow and empty. "I embarrassed him." "Yes, but you kept going. You didn't break down. You didn't run away. That takes real strength." Mama Patience sat beside her, her weathered hand covering Goodness's young one. "Listen to me carefully. Chief Adebayo is not a bad man, but he is a very demanding one. If you marry him, this will be your life. Constant tests, constant pressure, constant performance. Every day. Every moment. Are you absolutely sure this is what you want?" Goodness thought of her mother's tired face lined with pain and worry, her siblings' empty plates at dinner, the unpaid bills stacked on their small table at home, the desperation in her mother's eyes when she couldn't afford her medicine. "I don't have a choice," Goodness whispered, her voice breaking. Mama Patience sighed deeply, the sound of someone who had seen this story before. "We always have choices, child, but sometimes all the choices are hard. Sometimes all the roads lead through pain. You just have to decide which pain you can live with." That night, as Goodness rode home in Chief Adebayo's car, she stared out the window at the dark streets passing by. She had passed the first test, but already she felt something inside her beginning to crack, like glass with a hairline fracture that would eventually shatter. The promise of wealth was still there, glittering and tempting, but the price was becoming clearer with each passing moment. And Goodness wondered, in the quiet darkness of the car, how much of herself she would have to lose before she could save her family. How much of her soul would remain when this was all over? And would the person who emerged from this bargain even recognize herself in the mirror? The questions haunted her as the car carried her through the night toward a future that was still uncertain, toward choices that would define the rest of her life. Goodness woke the next morning exhausted, her body aching from the previous day's stress. Her mind was heavy with worry and doubt. But there was no time to rest, no time to process what she had been through. A message had arrived early, delivered by the same stern driver. Chief Adebayo wanted to see her again. Immediately. When Goodness arrived at the mansion, she found Chief Adebayo in his garden, surrounded by roses of every color. He was inspecting his flowers, clipping dead blooms with small golden scissors. He looked peaceful, almost gentle in the morning light. But Goodness had learned quickly that his moods could change like the weather, sunny one moment and stormy the next. "Goodness," he said without looking up from his roses, "you survived the dinner party. That's good. That shows you have some resilience. But hosting guests is only one small part of being my wife. Today I want to test something else. Your intelligence, your ability to see beyond the surface of things." Goodness's stomach tightened with anxiety. "Sir?" Chief Adebayo finally looked at her, his eyes sharp and assessing. "I have a business problem. One of my hotels in the next town is losing money. The manager says it's because of competition from newer hotels, but I think he's lying. I think he's stealing from me, pocketing money that belongs to me. I want you to go there, observe everything, ask questions carefully, and come back with the truth." Goodness was stunned, her mouth falling open slightly. "But sir, I don't know anything about business. I don't know how hotels work." "Then you'll learn quickly," he said simply, turning back to his roses. "I need someone I can trust. Someone who isn't already corrupted by money and power. You're poor. You're desperate. That makes you useful to me. You have nothing to lose by telling me the truth and everything to gain. Do you understand?" His words stung like slaps, but Goodness understood perfectly. She was being tested again, not just for her skills, but for her loyalty, for her willingness to do whatever he asked, no matter how difficult or uncomfortable. "I'll do my best, sir," she said quietly, bowing her head. Chief Adebayo handed her an envelope thick with cash. "Take this. Stay at the hotel for 3 days. Watch everything that happens. Talk to the staff when they don't know you're watching. Talk to the guests, the suppliers, the cleaners, everyone. Then report back to me with the complete truth." Goodness took the envelope with trembling hands, the weight of the money and the responsibility both heavy. "Thank you, sir." That afternoon, Goodness traveled to the hotel by bus, clutching her small bag. It was called Golden Pearl Hotel, and from the outside, it looked beautiful and well-maintained. But when she entered through the glass doors, she noticed problems immediately. The reception desk was dusty, fingerprints visible on its surface. The carpet was stained in several places. Staff members were sitting around chatting and laughing instead of working. The air smelled stale, like windows hadn't been opened in days. Goodness checked into a room using a false name that Chief Adebayo had given her. She didn't tell anyone who she was or why she was really there. For the next 3 days, she watched carefully, her eyes and ears open to everything. She talked to the housekeepers during breakfast service, asking casual questions. She chatted with the night security guard when she couldn't sleep. She befriended a young waitress named Ochuko, who seemed honest and unhappy with how things were being run. Slowly, like pieces of a puzzle coming together, the truth emerged. The manager, Mr. Bello, was indeed stealing systematically. He was inflating expenses on paper, claiming to spend more on supplies than he actually did, then pocketing the difference. He was also letting his friends and family stay at the hotel for free while recording them as paying guests, stealing that revenue as well. The staff knew about it, every single one of them, but they were too afraid to speak up. Mr. Bello had connections to powerful people. He had threatened to destroy the life of anyone who reported him, promised to make sure they never worked again. On the third day, Goodness gathered all her notes carefully. She had names, dates, specific amounts, evidence that couldn't be denied. Her hands shook as she prepared to return to Chief Adebayo. She knew that exposing Mr. Bello could be dangerous, not just for her, but for the staff who had trusted her with information. But she also knew this was her test. If she failed, if she came back with nothing, she would lose everything. When Goodness returned to the mansion, Chief Adebayo was waiting in his study, sitting behind his massive desk. She laid out everything she had discovered, her voice steady as she presented the evidence. The falsified records, the systematic theft, the intimidation of staff members, the culture of fear that Mr. Bello had created. Chief Adebayo listened without interruption, his face giving nothing away. When she finished, he leaned back in his leather chair, his fingers pressed together in front of his face, thinking deeply. "You've done well, Goodness," he said slowly, deliberately. "Very well indeed. Most people would have been too afraid to dig this deep. They would have asked a few surface questions and come back with nothing useful. But you weren't afraid. You were thorough, brave, even. You've saved me hundreds of thousands of naira with this information." Goodness felt relief wash over her like warm water. "Thank you, sir. I only wanted to help." "Mr. Bello will be dealt with severely," Chief Adebayo continued, his voice hardening. "Because of you, I'll stop the bleeding of money from that property. You've proven you can be trusted with important matters." Goodness smiled, feeling proud for the first time in days, feeling like maybe she could actually do this. But then Chief Adebayo's expression changed, became colder, more distant. "However, you should know something important. Mr. Bello is my late wife's cousin, my beloved wife who passed away 5 years ago. She would have wanted me to give him a chance, to forgive him, to show family mercy." Goodness's smile faded instantly, confusion flooding her mind. "Sir, what I'm saying is this. You've put me in a very difficult position. Yes, you told me the truth. I asked for it and you delivered it. But because of that truth, I must now hurt my late wife's family. I must disgrace them. Fire him publicly, possibly prosecute him. Do you understand the burden you've placed on me with your honesty?" Goodness felt her chest tighten, felt like she couldn't breathe properly. How was this her fault? She had only done exactly what he asked her to do. She had followed his instructions perfectly. I'm sorry, sir. I was only trying to help. You asked me to find the truth." Chief Adebayo waved his hand dismissively. "You did help. You did exactly what I asked, but you must understand something crucial about my world, Goodness. In this life, every action has consequences. Every truth has costs. Every piece of loyalty demands a price. Remember that lesson well." Goodness left the study feeling confused, upset, and somehow guilty, even though she had done nothing wrong. She had passed the test, but somehow it felt like she had failed. She was learning that Chief Adebayo's world was full of impossible choices, where right and wrong weren't always clear, where doing what you were told could still make you wrong. That evening, Mama Patience found Goodness sitting alone in the garden, staring at nothing, her eyes empty. "He did it again, didn't he?" the older woman asked gently, sitting down beside her. "Made you feel guilty for doing exactly what he asked? Made you doubt yourself and your choices?" Goodness nodded slowly, tears sliding down her cheeks silently. Mama Patience sighed deeply, a sound full of understanding and sadness. "This is his way. This is how he operates. He tests you, pushes you to your limits, then makes you doubt yourself, makes you feel like you're never quite good enough. It's how he controls people, keeps them off balance and desperate to please him. Are you absolutely sure you want this life, child? Because it won't get easier, it will only get harder. Goodness wiped her eyes, her voice barely a whisper. I have to be sure. My family needs me to succeed. They're depending on me. But what about what you need? Mama Patience asked softly, her hand on Goodness's shoulder. What about your own heart? Your own soul? What happens to those? Goodness had no answer. The truth was she had stopped thinking about her own needs long ago. Survival didn't leave room for personal wants or dreams. Duty had consumed everything else. The next morning, Chief Adebayo summoned Goodness again. This time, his expression was almost kind, almost warm. Goodness, you've passed 2 important tests. You can manage my household under pressure. You can handle my business affairs with intelligence. But there's one more thing I need to know before we proceed. Can you handle me? Can you handle being with me every day? Goodness frowned, confused by the question. Sir? I am not an easy man, Chief Adebayo said bluntly, with brutal honesty. I have moods that change quickly. I have demands that most women cannot meet. I have expectations that seem unreasonable to ordinary people. Before we proceed with marriage preparations, I want you to move into the mansion for 1 month. Live here with me. See what your life would truly be like, day by day. If after 1 month you still want to marry me, then we'll make it official. We'll have a ceremony, but if you can't handle it, then we part ways now. What do you say? Goodness's heart raced wildly. Moving into the mansion meant leaving her family completely. But it also meant getting closer to securing their future, to ending their suffering once and for all. I agree, sir, she said firmly. Chief Adebayo smiled, genuine pleasure in his expression. Good. You'll move in tomorrow. Mama Patience will prepare a room for you. Pack everything you'll need. As Goodness left the mansion that day, she felt both hope and dread warring inside her. The finish line was in sight, so close she could almost touch it. But she sensed that the final stretch would be the hardest of all, the most painful, the most costly. And she wondered, as she walked home in the afternoon heat, if she had the strength to endure what was coming. If anyone did. Goodness moved into Chief Adebayo's mansion the next day, her entire life fitting into one small worn bag. Her few belongings looked pitiful in the grand room she was given. Her mother cried as Goodness left, holding her hands tightly, her grip weak but desperate. Are you absolutely sure about this? Her mother asked, her voice weak and full of worry. You don't have to sacrifice yourself for us. Yes, Mama, Goodness said, forcing confidence into her voice that she didn't quite feel. This is for all of us. I'll send money for your treatment very soon, I promise you. Just hold on a little longer. Her younger siblings hugged her goodbye, their small arms tight around her waist. They didn't fully understand what was happening, why their sister was leaving, but they could feel the weight of it in the air, heavy and final. At the mansion, Mama Patience showed Goodness to her room with a sad smile. It was beautiful, more beautiful than anything Goodness had ever seen. Bigger than her entire family's house. A large bed with soft sheets that felt like clouds. A private bathroom with hot water that ran freely. A wardrobe full of new clothes that Chief Adebayo had bought for her, expensive dresses and shoes in her exact size. He wants you to look the part, Mama Patience explained quietly. Starting tomorrow, you'll dress like the wife of a wealthy man. You'll act like her, you'll become her. That first night, Goodness couldn't sleep despite the comfortable bed. The mattress was too soft. The room was too quiet. She missed the sounds of her siblings breathing beside her in their shared room, the familiar creaks of their old house, the distant sounds of neighbors. Here, everything felt strange, foreign, like she was living in someone else's life, wearing someone else's skin. The next morning, Goodness's real education began in earnest. Chief Adebayo had hired a woman named Mrs. Okoro to teach her proper etiquette and refined behavior. How to walk with grace, how to speak with a cultured accent, how to eat with multiple forks and spoons and knives, how to greet important guests according to their status, how to dress appropriately for different occasions and events. You must erase your village behavior completely, Mrs. Okoro said sharply during their first lesson, her voice cutting and critical. Chief Adebayo's wife must be refined, elegant, sophisticated. You must make him proud at all times, not embarrass him with crude manners. Every word felt like an insult, like a rejection of everything goodness was. Like everything about her natural self wasn't good enough, needed to be erased and replaced. But she bit her tongue and learned, practiced, repeated. She practiced walking with books balanced on her head for hours until her neck ached. She memorized which wine glass went with which course, which fork was for salad and which for dessert. She learned to smile pleasantly even when she felt nothing inside, learned to make her face a beautiful mask. In the evenings, she would dine with Chief Adebayo in the formal dining room. He would ask her questions about her lessons, testing her knowledge like a strict teacher, correcting her mistakes immediately and publicly, even in front of the servants. "Your posture is slumping again," he would say sharply. "Sit up straight. A lady never slouches. You're speaking too loudly." A proper lady uses a soft, melodious voice, not harsh village tones. "Don't laugh like that. It's unrefined, crude. Learn to laugh delicately." Slowly, day by day, Goodness felt herself disappearing, like she was fading away. The girl who used to laugh freely with Zainab about silly things, who used to sing while cooking for her siblings, making up funny songs, who used to dream of simple happiness, of love and children and a small happy home. That girl was being systematically erased, replaced by someone Chief Adebayo was molding to fit his exact specifications, like shaping clay into a specific form. One evening, after a particularly difficult dinner where Chief Adebayo had criticized everything from her table manners to the way she wore her hair to how she held her water glass, Goodness retreated to her room and cried. Deep, racking sobs that shook her whole body. Mama Patience found her there, curled up on the bed like a child. "Child, what's wrong?" the older woman asked gently, sitting beside her. "I don't know who I am anymore," Goodness sobbed, the words pouring out. "Every day, I become less myself. Every day, more of me disappears. And I'm not even married yet. What will happen when I become his wife completely? Will there be anything left of me at all?" Mama Patience sat beside her, stroking her hair like a mother would, gentle and soothing. This is the price rich men demand, especially men like Chief. They don't want wives, not really. They want possessions. Beautiful things they can display and control like expensive artwork. Things that reflect well on them. "But my family needs me to do this," Goodness whispered desperately. "They're counting on me. I can't give up now." "Perhaps that's true," Mama Patience said softly, sadly. "But at what cost to your soul? What good is saving your family if you lose yourself completely in the process?" The question haunted Goodness through the following weeks like a ghost. As she continued her transformation, she caught glimpses of herself in mirrors throughout the mansion and didn't recognize the person staring back. Her clothes were expensive now, designer labels she had never heard of. Her hair was styled perfectly every day by a professional. Her skin glowed from expensive creams and treatments, her nails were manicured, her eyebrows shaped, her makeup applied by experts. On the outside, she looked like she belonged in Chief Adebayo's world, looked like she had been born to wealth and privilege. But inside, she felt hollow, empty, like a beautifully decorated room with no one actually living in it. Like a gorgeous shell with nothing inside. Halfway through the month, Chief Adebayo took Goodness to a charity gala hosted by the governor. It was her first public appearance with him, her debut into high society. Important people were there, people she had only seen on television, politicians in expensive traditional wear, business moguls worth billions, society women dripping in diamonds that could feed Goodness's village for a year. Goodness wore a stunning gold dress that Chief Adebayo had personally chosen, had insisted she wear. She moved through the crowd with practiced grace, the result of weeks of intensive training, smiling at the right moments, greeting people with the proper titles, saying all the right things, making small talk about nothing. Chief Adebayo watched her carefully throughout the evening, his eyes never leaving her for long, assessing her performance like a director watching an actress. "You're learning quickly," he whispered to her during a quiet moment. You almost look like you belong here now. Almost. Almost. The word cut deep, reminded her she would never truly belong, would always be an imposter in this world. Later that evening, Goodness excused herself to use the ladies' room in the hotel ballroom. As she stood washing her hands at the ornate sink, she heard voices from the sitting area. Two women were talking, not realizing she was there, hidden behind the marble partition. "Did you see Chief Adebayo's new girl? So young it's disgusting. She could be his granddaughter. He always finds these poor, desperate ones from villages, molds them like clay, trains them like pets, then gets bored after a while and moves on to the next pretty face. I give it 2 years maximum before he's looking for the next one. That's his pattern." 2 years? You're generous. I heard his last girlfriend barely lasted 1 year before he discarded her like garbage. Just threw her out with nothing. Goodness's blood ran cold, her hands freezing under the running water. Last girlfriend? Chief Adebayo had never mentioned anyone before his late wife, had acted like she would be his first relationship since his wife died. The women continued talking, their voices carrying clearly. And that other one, before her? 3 years she wasted, 3 years of her youth. Then he just sent her away one morning with nothing but the clothes on her back. It's terrible. But what can you do? These village girls are so desperate for money they'll do anything. They don't ask questions until it's too late. Goodness felt sick to her stomach, felt like she might vomit right there. She waited until the women left, then splashed cold water on her face, trying to steady herself, trying to breathe normally. When she returned to the ballroom, she couldn't focus on anything. The music was too loud, the lights too bright. Chief Adebayo's hand on her arm felt like a chain. When they returned to the mansion that night, Goodness couldn't stop thinking about what she'd heard. The next morning, she carefully, nervously approached Chief Adebayo in his study. Her palms were damp, and though she had practiced her words over and over again in her mind, they threatened to crumble the moment his sharp gaze met hers. He sat behind a heavy mahogany desk, reviewing documents with the precision of a man who saw numbers as truth and people as tools. "Speak," he said, not looking up at first. Goodness's throat tightened. "Sir, may I ask you something personal?" Now his eyes lifted, cold and inquisitive. "Personal? That depends on how wisely you ask," she swallowed hard. "I heard that before me there were others. Young women, women you promised marriage to but never actually married. Is it true?" The silence was unbearable. He stood slowly, walking to the tall window behind him. His back straight, his hands clasped loosely. Finally he spoke. "Who told you that?" "It doesn't matter, sir," she whispered. "I just need to know." His voice was calm but chilling. "Yes, there were others. They came, full of eagerness, believing they were strong. But in the end they failed my tests. They could not endure what was required, and so I sent them away." Goodness's chest burned. "So how do I know I won't end up like them?" He turned, his expression unreadable. "You don't. That is what faith is. Either you trust me or you don't. Either you believe in the life I offer or you walk away now." Her lips trembled. I need time." His eyes hardened. "Time? You have been here 3 weeks already. You have 1 week left. Use it wisely, Goodness, because at the end of it, you will give me your answer. And if you choose to leave," his voice dropped to a growl, "do not ever return." Goodness bowed her head. "Yes, sir." She left the study with her heart in pieces. For the first time, she questioned if she had stepped into a cage from which she might never escape. That evening, Mama Patience found her sitting alone in the garden, staring at the roses Chief Adebayo so meticulously tended. The older woman's voice was gentle. "Child, what did he do this time?" Goodness shook her head. "It's not just what he does. It's what I'm becoming. Every day I feel less like myself, and now I hear I'm not even the first. I'm just..." The next Mama Patience sighed deeply, the lines on her face etched with years of quiet battles. "He takes pride in molding people, in shaping them, but he never truly loves them. Not the way you deserve. If you stay, you must understand, this may be your forever." Goodness's throat tightened. "And if I leave, my family suffers. The older woman placed a hand on her shoulder. Then you must ask yourself, which pain can you live with? 2 days later, Goodness received devastating news. Her neighbor came rushing to the market where she had gone with Mama Patience to buy vegetables. Breathless, the woman cried, "Your mother collapsed. She's barely breathing. Come quickly." Goodness's legs nearly gave way. She raced back, the driver trailing behind. At home, her mother lay pale on a mat, her siblings sobbing around her. "Please, we must take her to the hospital," the neighbor urged. "But the money—" Goodness pulled out her phone with shaking hands and dialed Chief Adebayo. "Sir, please. My mother is dying. I need help. Please send your doctor. I'll do anything." On the other end, his voice was calm, almost satisfied. "This, Goodness, is your final test. Come back to the mansion now, make your decision. If you agree to be my wife, my doctor will be at your mother's side within the hour. All her bills will be paid. Your family will never know suffering again. But you must choose. Now." Goodness's heart shattered. "You're using my mother's life against me." "I am showing you reality," he said coldly. "Everything in this world has a price. If you want her saved, you must pay with yourself." Tears blurred her vision. She looked at her siblings' terrified faces, at her mother's shallow breathing. She whispered, "I'll come." The drive back to the mansion was like a funeral march. Every turn of the wheel felt like a nail in her coffin. When she entered the mansion's main hall, Chief Adebayo was waiting. He stood tall, dressed in a regal white agbada, looking every bit the master of his world. "So," he said smoothly, "what is your answer?" Goodness's legs trembled. She thought of her mother, of all the sacrifices. She thought of her siblings' hungry eyes. And then she thought of herself, the girl who used to sing, the girl who used to laugh freely, the girl who was slowly dying inside this golden cage. Her lips parted. The words came out stronger than she expected. "No." For a moment, silence. Then his face twisted in disbelief. "What did you say?" "I said no." Her voice rose, steady now, carried by a force inside she hadn't felt in weeks. "I won't marry you. I won't sell myself, not even to save my family, because if I do, I'll lose everything that makes me who I am. And that is a price too high." Chief Adebayo's eyes blazed with fury. "You fool. Your pride will kill your mother. You will regret this every day of your life." Goodness's tears spilled, but she didn't flinch. "Maybe, but at least I'll regret it as myself, not as your puppet." She turned and walked toward the door. Each step felt lighter, freer, though fear gripped her heart like claws. "If you walk out that door," he thundered, "I will never help you again. You and your family will rot in poverty." Goodness paused at the threshold, her back to him. "Then we'll face poverty with dignity, because that's something your money can't buy." And with that, she stepped out of the golden gates, leaving behind the cage that had almost swallowed her soul. When Goodness returned home, she found her mother still struggling to breathe. But a kind local nurse had come, bringing medicine. Neighbors pooled together small contributions. Zainab, her loyal friend, stayed by her side. Her mother's eyes opened weakly. "Goodness, the marriage?" Goodness knelt, taking her hand. "I couldn't do it, Mama. I'm sorry. I failed you." Her mother's weak grip tightened around her daughter's fingers. "No, you didn't fail. You saved yourself, and that is worth more than gold life." After that was hard, very hard. Goodness worked small jobs in the market, selling food with Zainab. Some days they earned barely enough for one meal. But each night, Goodness lay down knowing she was free, that her laughter when it came was hers. Weeks later, Mama Patience arrived at the market stall. Goodness blinked in surprise. "Mama Patience, what are you doing here?" The older woman smiled faintly. "I left his service. After you walked away, I realized I had spent too many years enabling his control. Your courage opened my eyes." Goodness's voice cracked. "I don't feel courageous. I feel scared, lost." Mama Patience touched her cheek gently. "That is what real courage is, child. Being terrified but still doing the right thing." Together, they grew Goodness's food stall into something steady. It wasn't riches, but it was honest. And for the first time in a long while, Goodness went to bed not as someone's possession, but as herself. Months passed. Rumors reached the village. Chief Adebayo had found another young girl, even younger than Goodness. The cycle had begun again. Goodness whispered a prayer for the girl, hoping she would find the strength to walk away before she too was broken. Goodness's journey proves that some prices are simply too high to pay. Money can solve problems, but it can never replace dignity, freedom, or self-respect. True wealth lies not in gold or mansions, but in staying true to oneself, even when the world tempts with comfort at the cost of the soul. The golden cage glitters, but inside it suffocates. And sometimes the bravest choice is not to enter it at all. Now, tell me honestly, what part of this story touched you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. I would love to read every single one. And if this story made you feel something deep inside, please hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear this message today. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notification bell so you never miss our next powerful story. See you soon.